long anticipated presidential debate between President and former President Joe Biden and Donald Trump has finally taken place. Welcome to the June 29th edition of the Armstrong Williams Show for joining us. Well, it was a spectacle that millions of Americans watched, must-watch TV. But that's all it was, actually. It was a spectacle, a show for party loyalists to grab clips from and deride the other parties with. The reality, though, is that party loyalists will never change their mind on the left or the right. Perhaps the debate will steer some independents and others who have not made up their mind to decide one way or the other, or they may just decide to wait for the next debate. But that debate is in the books, and people continue to talk about Donald Trump and Joe Biden and their first presidential debate face-off. And remember, this is the first time Donald Trump has debated, since he last debated Joe Biden, because remember, he did not participate in any debates during the Republican primary. Boal faced a landslide defeat in his latest congressional primary to Westchester County Executive George Latimer. Predictably, the squad of which he's a part of, including AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Cori Bush, went after George Latimer, saying that he was bought by special interests because of the money he received from outside interests, especially AIPAC. However, the reality is that just 10% of Bowman's contributions came from within his district, while over a third of Latimer's came from the district. Isn't that interesting? But the most important question is this: what does all this mean for the squad? Does this mean that the fringe far left wokeness is on its deathbed? Probably not. But the votes in this recent election sent a clear message that they want someone to represent the interests of their district, not of their party. They don't want you to be a national celebrity around the world. They want you to be a celebrity known for delivering the goods and on the issues and on the things that the people in these districts care most about. And in Bolivia, a Bolivian general was arrested after a failed attempted coup against the government. The general, Juan Jose Zuniga, attempted to break into government offices with his soldiers. However, his efforts weren't enough as police managed to confront the general and got his soldiers to do what? Stand down. And boy, it's terrible what's happening in Gaza. Millions of dollars in aid shipments have been sent by the United States and other nations to the war-torn region, only to be stolen by Hamas and other opportunists who then resell that aid at market for inflated prices. Unbelievable, right? You don't hear much of that talked about, do you? And guess what? So many Gazans, you don't hear about this, are starving, including children, because of the fact that their aid isn't getting to them. And the Supreme Court has just ended its session for 2024. And let me emphasize that the court is not red versus blue, like the media often tells you. The court is not highly politicized. It is, in fact, actually just the opposite. Now, the media does a disservice to the public and the Supreme Court by creating the impression that cases are decided by results-driven ideological clashes, red versus blue, with an occasional purple justice. In other words, the Supreme Court is the same old polarized politics by other means. But that picture, believe it or not, is false. Here's the reality. Only a few cases decided in this term were along ideological lines. The remainder were either unanimous, yes, unanimous. Remember the social media case where the Supreme Court decided that Joe Biden and his administration could still do what they're doing with these technological giants? Guess what? That decision was unanimous, 8-1. Again, my point is, most of these decisions are either unanimous are split. A difference of opinion among the justices is not a difference in the constitutional principles. The court itself should be celebrated by the media as one of the finest hours in statesmanship. Let me welcome back Lunden Roberts, who is joining us live in our Broadcast C studios. Now, you know, it's rare that I invite a guest back within weeks, and, you know, I just felt the feedback was so wonderful. I felt the connection with you. In your book, My Life in the Shadows. You know, welcome to our house, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
What is it like being in Washington?
Like old times.
Like old times. You did say you love Washington, D.C.
I did, I do.
So let me get serious. I want to talk a little about Hunter Biden, and I've heard so many other interviews that you have given, and I got to thinking, how did Hunter become so addicted to drugs? What happened in his life that traumatized him? See, people forget, when you spend a year with someone, you work for them, that's a lot of time. There are a lot of intimate conversations. And the fact that he had you in his space, you earned his trust. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot that you learned about him. And I would venture to say, you became his therapist. What is it that happened in his life that lead up to him just self-destroying himself?
You know, I know this sounds crazy because people say he was a 40-something-year-old man and, you know, should have been able to cope with it better. But I think that it had to do with the tragedies that he had been through, and especially losing Boal. Like, that hit him really hard. And I think that's when I think he had suffered with it on and off forever. I think, I believe when was the Navy scandal? It was like 2012 or something like that. So he had suffered from it before, I think, off and on, but at that time, that was like the peak of it. And that was the worst time when I knew him.
Did he ever talk about when he first started using drugs and?
No, he told me in the beginning it started with drinking. With drinking,
which is a drug.
Just one drink, mm-hmm. And then it's, you know, you can never have one drink, and that's when, you know, he kind of knew he had a problem. But he said that he thought that it began like drinking in his teenage years. He did tell me that. I can't remember if he said 14 or 15 when he had his first drink.
Did his parents ever see the clear signs, and really, did they, over the years, try to get help for him?
You know, I'm not sure. I've heard that they have, but you know, Hunter was kind of off the rails when I knew him. And you know, there was one time, I don't know if we discussed last time we talked, but there's one time, and I talk about it throughout the book, where there's a chapter of Face in the Window, and that face in the window was Joe, you know, and he shows up. I'm at Bo's house with Hunter, and there's a knock on the door. And Hunter goes to the door, and he steps outside, of course, because he doesn't want his dad to come in and see that he has things in there. He don't know where he's put them, or he hasn't cleaned up his space. And so he walks outside, and I'm back in the bedroom, and I come out, and I'm looking through this window trying to see, like, who he's talking to. And I see, you know, our president now, but was former vice president at the time, you know, Joe Biden, and he's looking at his son. And I talk about the hurt and the pain that now resonates with me as a mother. You know, I would hate to be in his shoes at that time, because no matter how powerful this man was, this is a battle he can't pull his son out of. And this was something, you know, he said Hunter was a grown man. He made those decisions, you know, for himself, but he was suffering from this addiction. And I remember seeing the look on his face, and it was just like it was a solemn, hurt, painful look as he spoke to Hunter. And I could see Hunter was moving his hands and talking, and Joe really wasn't saying anything. He was just looking at him. And I thought about, you know, now that I'm a mother, having a child, and 30 years from now, if I was ever put in that situation, I can't imagine the hurt that I would feel, but it was all over Joe's face that day I saw it.
Did you ever meet the former vice president at the time in person? Is that something he did not want?
No, we never really talked about it, but
what do you think his relationship was with his father?
I think that Hunter felt like a disappointment. He felt like this black sheep to his family. He wanted to make his father proud, and he let that be known. You know, he really wanted to do things that would, you know, make Joe proud of him, because he felt like he was such a disappointment and let him down so many times. You know, you're in this political family and you have to, he's the scandal-plagued son. And that's, you know, that's what he felt like. And I think that, honestly, I think that Hunter's addiction grew worse when those boundaries were crossed with Hallie, because I think in a way he feels like he let Bo down by doing that as well.
Did that bother you?
Him and Hallie?
Yes, the fact that he was willing to be intimate with his deceased brother's wife.
Yes, but the times that I was around the two of them together, they didn't seem like a couple.
Oh, you saw them together?
Yes, I met Hallie.
You met her?
Mm-hmm. He wanted me to meet her.
Why?
I call us in the book the Dream Team.
So tell me why he would want you to meet his ex-sister-in-law.
Well,
and tell us about that meeting.
So, you know, I had been seeing Hunter before it came out in the media that he was seeing his sister-in-law, and so it was sent to me by a friend who knew that I was, you know, seeing Hunter, and she sends me this article, and I just sent him a text message and just checking on you, making sure everything's okay, you know, just checking in type. Because I knew that he was probably, if anything was in the media or something, Hunter was probably in a darker time. Like, his addiction would grow worse. And he used it to cope with everything. Like, that was part of it. And so he sends me a message back like the next day, and just a short thank you. And then it was, you know, like a week or two, and he messages me wanting to meet up, and I go see him, and you know, he hugs me and tells me thank you. You know, I was one of the only ones that checked on him that day when things hit the media. And, you know, he just made it kind of seem like things weren't what it was. And, you know, the media sometimes gets it wrong, but it was kind of like it's got to be played out. Like, it's played out, not played out for the media, but it's like it's kind of something they have to accept at this point and move forward with. And so he made it seem more like it was like this open relationship that was just kind of there for the time being. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Well,
but
hold that, because I can tell you're uncomfortable with this, which is okay. You're uncomfortable. Oh yes, you are.
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna take a break, because I gotta go there with this conversation. I'm gonna take a break, and I'm going there. I'm letting you know. Don't go away. We'll be back. I forgot that was in the book. You know, before I go there, Lunden, tell us about the relationship really between Hunter and his brother Biden. Was it close? Was it competitive? What was that relationship? Because Hunter was older, correct?
Older than Hallie?
Bo.
Oh, no, Bo was older.
Bo was older. I want to know, what was the relationship between Hunter and his brother Bo?
Well, see, I wasn't there during that time.
But did he talk about the relationship?
Yes, very close.
Very close.
Very close, but they were also like, Bo was the one that just did everything right, and Hunter was the one that, you know.
Black sheep.
Black sheep, yeah. But every time it seemed like, you know, Hunter derailed, Bo would be there to reel him back in and put him back on those rails. And so, like, I think that's why he just spiraled so much, because he needed Bo to pull him back in, and he didn't have that.
So even during the lifetime of his brother, he had serious issues.
Yes, I believe so.
So tell us about your encounter with Hallie, Bo, and yourself. Tell us about that time. Hunter, yes.
Yeah. So the first time, you know, he tells me when I see him after, you know, he downplays it, like I said, and then tells me, you know, that he wants me to meet her. And he thinks that we'd get along great. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, and we did. We met out in Georgetown one evening, and after we had a couple drinks, we sat and talked. They didn't really get along. As odd as that sounds, seemed
a lot of tension there.
Yeah, there was a lot of tension there. Mm-hmm. And of course, I didn't really understand at that time, like what, I say in the book, like, what are we, the dream team? Like, what is this? You know, a throuple? Like, what goes on from here? And it doesn't make much sense. But he wants me to meet her, so maybe, you know, maybe me and Hunter are just good friends.
But you felt uneasy about it. There was uneasy.
So.
You thought something deeper was going on.
And at first, and then I could tell, like, Hallie kind of didn't know how to take me. So, you know, I talked to her, and she was sweet, very nice, but it was after that, we had a couple drinks, then we went to Rosemont Seneca, and Hallie, you know, had a headache. She wanted to, the times that I was around her, she wanted to go to the back room, just go to bed. Like, she didn't want to sit out and talk. She didn't want to go do anything, go eat, nothing like that. Like, she just wanted to lay down and sleep.
Was there the relationship that developed between the three of you?
No, I was just around her those few times, and like, she let it be known. Like, I can remember one time we were at Chainbridge, over on Chainbridge, where Joe and Jill had a house at the time. Hunter was staying throughout his separation and his divorce. And I can remember one time I was sitting at their kitchen island with Hallie, and I just had to mediate, like, this whole argument that happened between them. And after, you know, Hunter storms off upstairs to this wing above the garage where he was staying, and Hallie just looks at me and she's like, Hunter trusts you. And I said, you think so? And she said, I know so. She said, he trusts you and he confides in you more than he ever would.
Well, there had to be a lot of guilt over her sleeping with her deceased husband's brother.
I think Hunter had a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
With that, regardless of the addiction and where that would.
But she had to have a lot of guilt too.
Possibly. I didn't get to know her as well.
You did?
No.
You know.
That time at Chainbridge was one of the last times I was around her. Another time I was around her,
How bad was his addiction to alcohol and then drugs? How bad was it?
Bad. It was, you know, it was something I had never seen before, and I found out yesterday in an interview. They asked me about, had you been around addiction before? And I had not. I had never seen it, so maybe that's what just, like, intrigued me.
He did not eventually coax you in participating with him?
Hunter would never try to get people to do anything with him, to try to, at that time, as far as me and my friends and stuff, it was whatever you feel comfortable with. He was very, very respectful. Were you ever comfortable
in doing that with him, though?
Well, in the book, I talk about participating in certain things and, you know, doing certain things with Hunter that I've never done with anyone else.
How did he convince you to do that?
He didn't.
He didn't?
No, it's not that he convinced me. Is that what I said? He convinced me? No, he didn't convince me. I convinced myself into I was just that comfortable around him that I could do certain things. And
but you didn't continue it.
No.
Why?
And that's the thing with me. That's what I talk about. Again, there are stories where I want, you know, my daughter to have that trait from me. I don't have an addictive personality. And so there are several things, like I've tried things with Hunter and drank, and it's never stuck to me.
I hate to do this because this is not my thing, but I'm going to do it. What are some of the things that you participated in with him?
You have to read the book.
I did read the book, but there are people who are listening have not read the book. This is for the people who are listening.
Well, maybe that'll make them read it.
They'll go out and read it anyway. It's already in the book, so it's nothing that you're hiding. So at least give us one example.
You know, I talk about participating in I've tried cocaine. And drinking a lot, partying a lot, and doing things that I had no business doing. But it was a different life than the life that I lived in Arkansas. And then, you know, Hunter came in and...
escalated it.
No, I wouldn't say escalated it. It intrigued me. I was just so intrigued by it. And not so much his addiction,
Would you have been as intrigued if he were not part of, like, a royal family? The Bidens are like the royal family in this country. Were you intrigued by that? Had he been just anybody else pursuing you and being convincing and such a personality, would you have been so willing to step out of yourself and out of your comfort zone to participate in those things?
I think so at that time because, and I'll tell you why, because when I first met him, and I talk about in the book, these beautiful blue-gray eyes looking at me, and they were the most beautiful eyes I'd seen, and I say, the eyes were the windows to the soul, as William Shakespeare says, and there was so much pain. Like, I wanted to know him. From the moment I saw him, I wanted to know more about him. Like, he seemed so genuine, he seemed so sincere, and I had this empathy for him because I could see that he was suffering. I could see there was a lot of pain that came with him. And before I even knew who he was...
Did he cry a lot?
No.
Never.
No.
Did he ever express dissatisfaction with his career? And did he talk about...
Yes.
He did?
Yes, he wasn't happy with where he was in life, and he like I said, felt like a disappointment. But as far as crying and stuff, I'd seen him mad a couple times, but I seen him cry one time.
And what was that over?
I had been pregnant. This was right before I come back to Arkansas. I'd been pregnant. He's slowly fading and not being as responsive as he said that he was going to be, as he promised me when I told him that I was pregnant. And then I get a call from one of my friends, and she wants to talk to me face to face. And so I go meet with her, and I sit down, and she's like, "Look," she's like, "I know you're pregnant, and I've got to tell you something." And I said, "What?" And I remember, like, my nerves were shot. And I was like, "What?" Like, at this point, what more can I take? And she said, "I made a mistake, and I slept with Hunter last night."
You mean Hunter slept with her?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But you knew Hunter you knew Hunter was cheating. You knew he was not loyal. You knew that,
with my best friend? With one of my best friends?
I get that.
While I'm pregnant?
Yeah. But she called you. Why? Did you forgive her?
I did. I said, well, she had told me that, like, she was, really intoxicated and whatnot, and I just, it's kind of like I talk about throughout Out the Shadows. Like, sometimes you have to forgive people even when they don't deserve it, or even when but she was sincere in asking for my apology.
My goodness. So are we saying that Hunter was a sex machine?
I don't know. I don't think so. No. I mean, he didn't seem that way, but I don't know what he did when he wasn't with me.
Did you actually think you could have a future with Hunter?
That's crazy, isn't it?
No, it's insane, actually.
I know.
But did you think so?
A part of me, yes.
How are you defining having a future? That you could marry him?
See, at the time, like, I talk about being so young and dumb and naive.
How old were you? What are you calling young?
Mid-20s.
Oh, come on. You were very mature at that age.
No,
wait a minute.
I wasn't.
Well, you may not have been. You may not have been. Let me take that back. But let me just say something. There is no way, even though Hunter is the father of your child, there is no way that Hunter is the person that you wanted as your husband. There's just no way.
That's true. Looking back now, you're absolutely right. But at the time, like, I was so sucked in that I didn't know. And I wouldn't say husband because I'd never even thought about being married, but I'd also never thought of having children. I'd never wanted to have children.
Here's the important question I'm going to ask you before we go to break. And I don't think anyone has asked you this question. You think Hunter is clean now?
I do. I think that they keep a close watch on him.
Who's they?
The family.
You think they can keep a close watch on him?
I think so. I mean, he has, like, Secret Service and stuff like that, so he wouldn't be able to do anything right there in front of him. Are they sleeping in
the bedroom when he goes to bed at night? Are they in the room with him? Are in the shower in the bathroom with him?
I have no clue. I don't know how that works.
You said he had a severe addiction.
He did.
Okay. And you really believe he's clean? In your heart?
From the times that I've talked to him since, right?
But you haven't talked to him since you've written this book?
I have.
You haven't?
I have not.
Now, let me just say this. Let me raise this with you. Did you know about the laptop? Did he ever discuss the laptop with you?
As far as, like, did I know about what was on the laptop or anything? No, I've been on his laptop. You've
seen the things?
No.
You've never seen any of those?
No, I'd never seen them. But what I'm saying, at the time, like, when I was seeing him, one time we were looking up memes during the when Joe Biden and Obama were in office, remember they came out with all those like memes about him and the funny memes, and like I looked that up on his laptop.
So
like,
he would follow all his press.
No, he didn't like that. I had seen the meme and I thought it was funny. I can't remember which one it was, but you know, his laptop was always just like right there, and I just like
The
looked it
same
up,
laptop.
I would assume so.
And you never knew that was on there.
No.
You never knew he was into the porno and he was recording everything. You never knew that.
No, recording everything. No, I didn't know that he was recording
The
everything.
things that he had recorded on. I've seen the laptop.
I have not, so
It's
don't
as
know.
triple X rated as you ever wanted.
I've heard, but
Yeah.
I've not seen.
Did you know about the
everything.
prostitutes?
No, not necessarily. What about them?
Oh, hold that. We're gonna get into that when we come back. That's a segue into a break. We're gonna come back. You have seen the laptop then.
I have not, and everyone says that I need to.
You have not. Let's take a break.
Books,
She has
but I've not.
She's not seen the laptop. I've seen the laptop. Okay, we'll be back.
It is easier to build up strong children than to try and repair broken men.
The streets are plagued with crime, violence, there's a lot of poverty, and it's all a result of lack of education that's happening in our schools. So it really is a crisis.
We come from very different political perspectives, but we've come to the same conclusion, and that is there is a crisis in the classroom. Children are being deprived of quality of life because they're being deprived of a good education. We must solve this problem. It's incumbent upon all of us to join hands together to get this done.
We can't afford to wait one more day before we address these issues, because every day we lose another child.
Let's stop the politicking. Let's stop the games. Let's really do something to give these kids a real chance at life and being a part of that American dream.
We need accountability for funding. Many of the districts where you're seeing very low test scores, students graduating with very low literacy and math comprehension rates, they are receiving a lot of funding. So where is the money going where our kids aren't being adequately educated?
If you believe every child is deserving of a quality education, please go to educationjusticefoundation.com. Hunter Biden spent $872,000 on porn, prostitutes, and strip clubs. Almost $1 million. That's a fact.
That's on the laptop.
Not just on the laptop. It's been reported in the investigations. It's just factual.
It's a lot of money.
No, it's an addiction. So where did he get that money from?
Do
you know? I know you know about the tax evasion and the charge. Did he seem to have a lot of money when you were with him?
Yeah, I mean, he seemed. We stayed at really luxurious hotels. I mean,
but did you ever see him do real work?
Yeah, there were times like he had to run to meetings, and I can remember I remember one time I think we were at the Watergate, and or it might have been at the Ritz. I don't remember, but I remember being in the room and like he had to meet his uncle. You know, they were having a meeting in the city, and then he had like to do other meetings after that. He had other meetings after that.
But you never saw him in a real office or with a real staff. You just saw him running off the different meetings and responding to different things. But because what you're saying to me,
he was on the go 24/7.
Yeah, what you're saying to me, he had a lot of freedom.
It seemed that way, yeah.
Yeah. So you knew nothing about Burisma and the Chinese and the fact that he was being paid this kind of money. You had no idea about that.
No, I had a briefcase that had the Burisma logo and stuff on it, and the clip on the inside of it was it said Hunter Biden, and it had the board and the years and stuff like that. And I have that briefcase to this day, and it's full of Navy sonograms.
Really? Mm-hmm. Did he ever really confide in you? He kept his personal dealings separate from his personal life with you?
I would like to think that he confided in me, but also Hunter would, you'd have to take some of the things that he said with a grain of salt, because...
He would lie?
No,
I said that.
No.
He said himself he was a liar. He said
He
that.
did?
Yes. He says, I'm a liar, I steal. These are his words. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he was on a tape with, I think it was Hallie, who was communicating with him. Something had bad gone down, and he said, I need help, I'm a liar, I'm a thief, I con people, I take advantage of people, I feel like I'm a burden to people. These are his words.
Really?
Yes. But back to what you were saying.
Oh, gosh.
Back to what you're saying.
Okay.
Please continue.
What was I saying?
I was asking you, would he lie to you?
He did. I mean, he looked me in the face and told me that, you know, he was going to be there physically, mentally, emotionally, everything.
But he was not even
And
in his right mind. You can't believe that.
Well,
This
now,
guy's
here's
strung
the
out
other
on
thing.
drugs. Come on now.
Here's another thing he said,
Okay.
which I thought, you know, throughout the book, there's chaos and there's this craziness, especially during those times that I'm in this relationship with Hunter and I'm seeing him. But I believed the things that he said. Like, at one point, he was going to go get injected with some frog venom.
Frog venom?
Mm-hmm. And it would, like, clear his addiction. Like, he just, like, it would...
And you believed him?
He wouldn't have withdrawals, or it would just like clear everything. Like, you could go have this frog venom. And what's crazy is I'm not the only one he told that to, because I had thought that and I believed it. He had told my friends that, they believed it, and then somebody had messaged me back in this last trial that he was in, and there was a testimony he had told another girl about the frog venom.
But he was addicted to drugs. He was not in his right state of mind. He would say anything. Anything, Lunden. I mean, as you step back from this is a guy that was very sick, had little control of his actions. This man was dying, actually.
I know. And there was actually one night in a chapter I talk about how his life was in my hands.
Tell us about that.
We started the night, it was for my birthday, but even though we were celebrating in like September, because I went home for the summer and then spring, and it was just crazy and chaotic. And so for my birthday, he rented me out a suite at Rosewood Hotel over in, I believe it's in the Georgetown area. It's close to the waterfront. And for me and some of my friends, we would just stay there, room service. It had like this, it's supposed to have like an infinity pool. It had like this huge tub in it. It was so nice. And so he got it, and him and I went there first, and then, you know, my friends caught up with us later, and they come, and then he's gonna go. He had meetings, and then he was gonna go, I think, to Annapolis or something that night. And he leaves, and so I'm in there, and we had drank champagne. Now we're on to like $200 milk and cookies, and, you know, room service is on him. So we were just having ourselves a good time watching Friends reruns, and there was a knock at the door. And we're like looking around like, who is knocking at the door? It was getting late. And I go and I look to the people, and I remember seeing Hunter, and he had one of his hats pulled down, and he had a glass cup in his hand. Of course, it had a lime in it, so I knew it was, you know, not water. And I opened the door, and he throws it up in the air, and it just went everywhere. And I was like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, you scared me. And I was like, did you not expect me to open the door? You knocked. And I'm looking at him. Now, Hunter had a sense of being like, you know, jumpy sometimes, but a lot of times it's because I was messing with him or doing something. But he had that sense of paranoia. So, but throwing the cup in the air and stuff, that was next level after he just knocked on the door. And so I watch him walk in. He walks in like with this stumble, which wasn't like him. Normally he was...
Seems like he was drunk.
Almost, yeah, but...
Almost?
Yeah, but different because, you know...
High.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something I had seen him, you know, use crack cocaine.
Maybe it was that frog juice he talked about.
No. I don't think he'd had that yet. It didn't clear him.
It's sad. All this is sad.
It's very sad.
It's sad. And so what happened?
So I watch him, as I'm shutting the door, I watch him kind of stagger over to the couch. And he sits, and there was a marble like coffee table in between these two couches where we had been sitting, me and two of my friends, watching the Friends reruns. And my friend sits up and like she looks at him, and I've had these two friends around him plenty of times, and we'd even grown into this, like, we called ourselves like this amoeba pack is what we called each other, and it was like our code word. And so I can see the look on their face, and they can see him. I can only see him staggering, and one of them like sits up and like she sets her drink down, and she's like looking at him, and she's terrified, and he's mumbling, but he's not like talking to us. He's like talking to himself, and his little things that he's saying just aren't going together, and you can't even make it out because it's real low. And then he just like flops from the couch to the floor, and he's just on the ground. And as I shut the door, I run over to him and I grab him. I'm grabbing his head. And of course, my friends now, they're like stand up, like, is he okay? Does this happen often? Like, what is going on? They're freaking out. Like, we got to call the cops. And I'm like, calm down, because I knew I had to keep my composure. Because one, if I call the cops and the ambulance or somebody like that shows up, it could possibly save his life, but it would also be another scandal for him. And he trusted me. And I feel like that's why he found me. I laid there all night with a phone in my hand, listening to every breath. And he had these shallow breaths. I got
so he was out of it?
Oh, he was out of it.
Oh, for how long?
A long time.
All night?
All night. Oh,
so you said you had to send your girls home?
One of them stayed with me because she was worried about me. Another one went, but like when he was on the ground, and I was like, go get him water. Like he needs water or something.
So you think he could have died had you not been there?
Yes.
Interesting.
And we go get him water, and when I say water, he snaps out of it and lifts his head up and smacks his head on the marble table. But he yells, "Waters of World War II," and then just like falls back out. And I'm like,
did you ever find out what he was high on?
No, because Hunter had a way of deflecting. Something was different that night. He got something bad because it was horrible. And like we got him to the bed, and I laid him down. I laid there by him all night watching every single breath. And then occasionally he'd let out like this snore, and I would just take a sigh of relief, because it was, I mean, I might have had a champagne buzzed mind, but it had me in prayer all night long, praying for his life.
You said something very interesting, and as I hear this story, do you think your best friend that admitted that she slept with Hunter, do you think she was the only one of your friends that Hunter slept with?
Yes, I didn't bring many friends around Hunter.
That makes sense.
Because if I brought someone around him, it would have to be somebody that I trusted, and that wouldn't just go out talking about him to other people.
Did Hunter ever confess to you that he slept with your best friend?
He kind of had to, because as she's telling me, we're in a car together. She's in my car. She had gotten in, and we're sitting there talking, and her phone's in her lap, and it starts buzzing after she tells me, and it says Hunter Biden was calling her. And so I just look at her and I said, answer it. And she says, no, answer it, put it on speakerphone, answer it. So she answers it, she says hello, and he says, hey, what are you doing? She's like, I'm sitting here talking to Lunden. And he goes, oh, you didn't tell her, did you? And she's like, Hunter, you're on speakerphone. And click, he hangs up. And then he starts blowing my phone up.
He doesn't like confrontation.
No.
Yeah, that's obvious.
But I knew this was a way he was going to try to get out of it and be like...
You couldn't trust him. You always knew that, though.
Well, part of me, yes.
I don't even know if he knew half the time who he was sleeping with.
You're probably right.
Yeah, but he knew he was sleeping with you.
I would hope.
Yeah, but what lessons can other women and parents who have children addicted to alcohol and drugs, what can they learn? What advice and wisdom can you share to them?
I think a lot. One, don't give up. You know, a lot of times you feel like you've had enough and you just give up. And another is to give them grace, but also be stern. And, you know, I talk about having this guilt, because I feel like an enabler, like I enabled him. And it's like you said, it's sad. Like he was a dying man at this point. This is bad. This is horrible. And I'm not being stern enough. I'm giving grace.
But you know what? You have definitely been giving grace. I'm going to end it on this. And this is, I got to ask this. You know, I'm sure you understand what intimacy is. You know that, what that is. And you know when intimacy is passion and this person really cares for you and into you. I can't imagine, I can only imagine that your intimacy with him always indicated to you that you cared more for him than he cared for you.
Yes.
Okay. You answered my
Absolutely.
question. Yes. Yeah. It was all about, yeah, I don't have to say anything. Listen, I really appreciate your honesty. I enjoyed having you on today. The fact that you found the strength to overcome this. People can learn from your life. A lot of people would have fallen apart, but we remember from the last conversation, your parents were always there for you, and now you got a child that you're responsible for. You know, I hate to say this, sometimes until these men get their acts together and really find a lane of overcoming and really doing something with their lives, sometimes it's probably not even best for the child to interact with them, sometimes. And then sometimes fathers, it may have to be your father or somebody else. It may be the best thing that Hunter is not in your life, in your child's life. So
and you know, that's another reason that I feel like I'm able to speak my voice and tell my story, because I want my daughter to know that. I want her to know her mother's story and that she stood 10 toes down. Right. She wasn't scared to tell her story. Yeah. And because
you don't need Hunter.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. And you know, Navy, although she yearns for him and she wants to talk to him and stuff like that, and a daughter does yearn for that love from her father.
Yeah.
But
and someday that would happen.
But at the same time, I want her to know that at all costs, no matter what happens in the future, no matter where their relationship goes, I want her to know that her mother fought for her at all times and made her her main priority.
That's a message for all mothers. Out of the shadows, Lunden Roberts, live in our house, and we'll be back. Don't go away. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be back.
As a home buyer, you need a lender who cares about your home ownership dreams. United Security Financial has been helping families secure their dream homes for 30 years. We're a national fair practice lender that provides affordable mortgages and low down payment programs to eligible home buyers. To learn how United Security Financial can help you secure your dream home, call 1-800-373-4186.
And welcome back to the broadcast. Stephen Boal, board chair of this mobility company. We've had Steve on before. Steve, welcome back.
How are you?
Welcome back to the broadcast. How are you?
I'm great. So good to see you. How are you?
Just fine. How is Matia Mobility? And tell us about Matia Mobility.
You bet. Absolutely. Thanks for having us on again, of course. So Matia Mobility is a standing robotic mobility device company based in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we manufacture a product that's designed for people with paralysis or neurodegenerative diseases that affect mobility, like MS or ALS, stroke victims, or again, like I said, paralyzed people who have been in accidents, for example.
So tell us about the latest with Matia Mobility, and it's particularly what you guys are really pushing and enhancing technologies, especially for those who suffer injuries in this space. Talk about your latest.
Absolutely. So if you can imagine somebody who has had an accident or has had an impactful disease and they are no longer able to walk, or they've never been able to walk, and they spend their lives in a wheelchair, well, at Matia, what we do is we make a product that allows somebody to get out of bed on their own in the morning, stand up on their own, and move through the world doing their activities of normal day life on their own without the need for an aid to come and get them and move them around. It's a standing mobility product that is robotic and doesn't require the use of somebody else to get you out of bed. And the latest, which I'm so pleased to be on the show and to announce to you, somebody who lives sort of in your area of the US, every year we give away one of our devices. And Kristen Beal, who's an author who was disabled in August of 2005 at the age of 14, she was in a jet ski accident on Lake Gaston, actually on the Virginia-North Carolina border. She and a classmate of hers were riding on a jet ski together when another jet ski crossed them. Her friend was killed in that accident, and she suffered a traumatic brain injury. She had liver lacerations, collapsed lungs, and a spinal cord injury. And like many people who face these kinds of challenges in their lives, she, rather than turn to the dark, she turned to the light and to the positive. She became an author, a speaker, competed in marathons. She's a nationally competing wheelchair fencer. She wrote a book called Date Me, about dating somebody who's in a wheelchair. And we just delivered her brand new tech RMD from Matia Mobility to her yesterday morning at her home. And it was so heartwarming to see her. She's got a young child, 1 year old. And as she says, she's now going to be able to watch her child grow up with her standing and throwing a ball and running around and chasing.
You know, it is amazing when you consider there's so many impossible situations in the world where people are injured and you think there's just no hope that they can ever return to some kind of normalcy in life. And you find this incredible technology to meet what some people once thought were to be these impossible solutions. Talk about that, where when people think that it's impossible, how you've developed this technology to give people that mobility again.
It's like you say, and I'm continuing to be impressed and inspired by people that I meet almost every day now. Somebody who's been in a wheelchair, who can't imagine being upright and carrying on activities of normal day life on their own, now has that ability in a form factor, in a product that doesn't make them feel like they're mechanized, like they're in a giant machine. And that's so important. When we as able-bodied people see somebody in a wheelchair, and I'm not talking about someone with a broken leg or a hip or someone who's had a knee replaced, I'm talking about somebody who's confined to a wheelchair for their entire life. And we see them, we instinctively want them to walk again. But when you talk to people who are in this position, walking is not an objective. Walking is hard. There are tools that you can use to walk, and it's a really difficult thing to do. Really, there are two things that people say that they want and that they need and they crave. One is they want to be eye level. They report that being spoken down to like a child, I often hear, I don't want to look at people's nostrils anymore. I just want to be eye level with people. And the second thing that people really crave is a hug from their loved ones standing up, and not a sitting down hug in a wheelchair, a crouched over hug. And what this device does that is so unique is that it fits in non-ADA space. You can bring it into your home. You can bring it into a small apartment, into a studio. You can bring it into your place of work. And when you're in it, you don't feel like you're in a big motorized device like some of the things that are on the market. It feels tight to your body, close to you. You can get very close to people. You can have normal, spaced conversations with people eye to eye. And if you can do things like use the bathroom yourself and things like that, this device allows that. So the dignity associated with being able to go from your bed to your living room, to a bathroom, to your place of work, to a park, to visiting with friends and to being with your family and loved ones, is just such a heartwarming and rewarding thing to see people being able to do really for the first time.
How do you envision the future of mobility technology, and what role do you see Matia playing in that?
In the way that we view this, the future of mobility is enabling anybody who has a mobility challenge to be autonomous, to do things on their own. The notion of having an aid or needing somebody to help you is often the case. But if you have the capacity with mechanics, with machines, with technology, even with AI, to be able to move through life on your own and function in normal activities of daily life on your own, that's the objective. The things that we have going on in the lab would blow your mind. The machines are getting smaller. The hardware is getting lighter. It's almost as if it doesn't exist when it's around you. The new model that we have coming out in a couple of years is barely visible when you're in it. It's different than the one we have today. And so when you're in it, you really just feel like you. It's like getting that feeling back. And the testimonials that we hear from people, the quotes, the joy, the way their eyes light up, the way their smiles show up when they stand for the first time on their own for sometimes decades. A gentleman in New York who's a disabled American veteran who stood for the first time about 6 months ago on one of our devices, and he looked over at me and he smiled and he said, "This is like the second coming of Jesus for me."
I would be remiss if I did not inquire about the next steps of future projects for Matia Mobility following the success of the tech RMD.
So we are looking at a variety of products now that allow you to do things that perhaps the tech may not allow you to do. For example, you can't take the tech on a beach right now. It doesn't move through sand. You can move it outdoors. You can take it on the boardwalk. You can take it on a lawn, but you can't move it through sand, for example. There are sports-related activities that people want to participate in that we're thinking about how to design a future version or adaptability of the tech to allow you to participate in sports as an able-bodied person, not in a wheelchair Olympics or something to that effect. So we're looking at all those types of things. We're also looking at stair climbing and descending equipment and things of that nature. But one of the most exciting things that we're doing right now is we're enabling you to communicate with your device and with others around you with your smartphone now. And so the ability, for example, that's up and coming, you get up in the morning, it tells you where the device is, how many minutes you spent standing yesterday, what your goals and objectives are for today, because standing is good for organ health, it's good for bone density, it's good for longevity of life. And so we're starting to incorporate some of those features that motivate you and that keep you up and keep you moving so that you can take the most advantage of the products.
Man, I am so proud of you, but I'm just so thankful that we have people in the technology space like you who are doing wonders for people who find themselves disabled and giving them a chance to sort of just be normal again. Is there a website so people can find out more about your products?
Absolutely. You see it below you, Matia Mobility. It's Matia Mobility, MATIAMOBILITY.com. And we're at Matia Mobility on all the socials as well. And the update for you since the last time we talked actually is that we're starting to have a fair amount of insurance coverage. So the VA is now paying for the product for disabled American veterans. Any disabled American veteran that wants it.
Thank you, that happened. I knew it was wrong. It's okay.